Hello, welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, Paul Mariner and Craig Burley alongside me. Plenty to get through today. A little later on in the programme, we're looking back at a good start to 2017 for both Manchester United and just about Manchester City. But we start at the Stadium of Light, where Liverpool could only manage a 2-2 draw against Sunderland. Jurgen Klopp's side, of course, boys, with the opportunity to close the gap on Chelsea, albeit momentarily at the top of the table, dropping 2 points. Jurgen Klopp not happy after the game with some of the calls. Let's take a look at the ones that he is disappointed with.
Right, closely. Clavan's, yeah, get right to that monitor. Clavan's a little, just at the end, there's the right leg comes out from Clavan.
You think it's the right call?
Yes.
I wonder what Steve Nicol would say.
I don't.
Well, he'd say it's a penalty.
Well, we'd have to remove his Liverpool goggles and get him to have a look.
Of course, Defoe then converts the penalty. It's 1-1. Take it to the second half. Liverpool 2-1 up. And then a free kick is conceded on the edge of the box.
But he's cost his team there by putting the arm out. But I don't think there's a... I think when you look at both incidents really closely, there's contact. There's enough for both players to go down. Clavan hangs the leg out and Lucas just clips Defoe.
There's no real complaint, was there, from the Liverpool players?
No, not really. I think the bigger complaint is, look, Liverpool have got, what, 7 points out of the 3 games?
Yes.
But it goes back to the point I was making last week for those that were watching.
Well, you've made it quite a lot.
Well, because I think it's big, and everybody else just said, oh, that's not, it's just part and parcel. This 3 games in 7 days is only shorter than Southampton. Well, they've been hopeless.
Yes.
They had 3 and 6. Liverpool gone for a title, 3 and 7. Right, Chelsea 3 and 10, who play Wednesday this week against Tottenham. Now, he was without Henderson.
Henderson was out.
Milner.
Coutinho.
Oh, Coutinho was out anyway. So he was without at least 2 players from injury who may have made a game had it been 48 hours down the line. Add that onto the rest that all these experts keep telling us, players need rest, then how can that not make a difference? So I think this could have a big bearing at the end of the season if, of course, Chelsea win on Wednesday.
I think if you look at the first 20 minutes of the game, it was a case of how many is this going to be? Liverpool, for me, were that good. What Klopp's got these so talented forward players doing is tracking back, making it so difficult. I thought first 20 minutes they were absolutely spot on. And I honestly...
Well, maybe the ref should have blown the whistle then.
I honestly thought that this is just going to be a question of how many. But then, with the Clavan foul penalty, Defoe bears it, it changed the game, and it was an even Steven game. I'll give you that, Craig, yeah. But when Liverpool go 2-1 up, you think, OK, they'll shut the door now. But Manny has admitted in the presser after that it was a handball. I mean, what a stupid...
How can you not admit it's a handball?
No, but OK, so the question is, why would you do that, you silly young man? Why would you do that?
This is going to cost Liverpool, as you say, big picture, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been worse. There was a penalty claim from Jan Azawi, a little flick. Jermaine Defoe missed a clear 1-on-1 in the first half when Mignolet came out and saved it. So, you know, it could have been even worse for Liverpool. I thought they showed a couple of different sides to the ball in recent weeks. Against Man City at the weekend, they showed a side where they could be organised. It wasn't all about flair, it was about organisation and defence. We know how good they are going forward. The key for me now is 1, do they make any moves in January for any loan players or any signings? 2, the injury situations. And 3, coping with the loss of Mane. I think all those things are key. And of course, they can't do anything about what Chelsea are doing. So if Chelsea, if this bandwagon continues to roll, it is only piling the pressure on every week and all the teams that are chasing. And that's a big problem.
Let's just remind you what that result means for the Premier League standings. As Craig mentioned, Chelsea in action on Wednesday against Spurs. So Liverpool, for the moment, do close the gap to 5 points. Of course, that could be extended to 8 if Chelsea get that victory against Spurs.
Tottenham here, Dan, on Wednesday, I've got a chance to really put the cat among the pigeons.
Of course, Chelsea are looking in that game against Spurs to make it 14 straight victories. That has never been achieved by any side in the history of the top-flight football in England.
Well, there's easier games to do it against them. Well,
yeah, this is a real test, obviously, for Chelsea. Will they... See, this is a weird one to phrase. I kind of want to say, well, if they do it, is the title done? Or does it matter?
I don't think the title's done. I really don't.
If they win at the Lane, it's done, surely.
But the problem is, Dan, that all the so-called top 6 keep winning. All right, Liverpool drew today, but for the most part, they keep winning. Everybody's on a roll. The separation between the top 6 now and the also rounds is...
But it'll be 8 points.
But it's a good gap.
It's a good gap, but I don't think, we're just over the halfway point, I don't think you can say that it's Chelsea's title. I don't think you can do that. There's way too many things to go on. I love the way that Conte, he is definitely the 12th man. The way that he coaches this side on game day is absolutely terrifying. It's the best I've seen. He doesn't give anybody any rest. If Costa or Pedro or Willian or whoever's playing up front, if they're in a bad position out of possession, he's right onto them. And he's not bothered who you are. That's why I just think, as a 12th man, I just think he gets them over the line. But it's not done and dusted.
Spurs has scored, 8 goals in the last 2 games?
I mean, we're reticent to talk about Watford. Chelsea being away, running away with it, because we don't want it to be over. But I tell you, I don't think there's a pundit or a programme or a show anywhere that can sit and say, this is your nailed-on top 4. Because it's so topsy-turvy. One week you think Spurs aren't going to be cutting
We're not talking top 4, we're talking top 1.
Oh, I think if we're talking top 1, we're looking at 2 teams now. And I said that last week. I said if Liverpool beat Man City, that could set them fair for the rest of the season. But if they lost to City, which they didn't, I thought that could have been their stumbling block. But I do think Liverpool are hanging in there, even if Chelsea beat Spurs on Wednesday. It's just going to be difficult.
You 2 horse race as well?
I think so. I think that just the way that Klopp gets them set up, the way that Conte gets them set up, I think that it's going to be a 2-horse race.
It gives them the advantage. All right, then. Well, coming up after the break, we'll be focusing on the Manchester clubs. United with a win against West Ham, thanks to some questionable refereeing from Mike Dean. Plus, we'll be talking also about Manchester City's win against Burnley. Welcome back. As promised, let's now talk about Manchester City's 2-1 victory over Burnley, which I suppose on paper you would suggest is, well, 3 important points for City, considering that awful result that they had against Liverpool. Yet, a lot of the talking point has been about their discipline and Pep Guardiola's post-match comments. So let's start off with discipline, shall we? Fernandinho getting another...
We can throw mud at Pep in recent weeks about results, and that's the business that he's in and we're in. But we can't throw mud at him for clowns like Aguero, who made that ridiculous challenge on David Luiz, got a 4-game ban. And now Fernandinho's 3rd red card in 7 games. That's a big problem. That's a bigger problem for him going forward than the fact they lost at Anfield at the weekend, because he's been one of the better players when available.
What's amazing to me, when you look at the games, Fernandinho really has been one of the better players, for me. And you would think it's just a lack of intelligence, because sure, they know the rules. As soon as you leave your feet, you're taking a chance. You're making the referee have to make a decision. And to be fair to the ref today, he didn't go immediately out with a red card. He did just pause a little bit. He spoke to somebody and then he made that decision, which I think is the right thing to do. As Craig said, absolute 100% red card. And it's just foolish. Now, no Gundogan, no Fernandinho. So what are they going to do with the centre of midfield now?
I tell you what, now, this may just have been luck, because he's not got the crystal ball. But it's damn well been a good decision that he patched up this Yaya Toure nonsense a few weeks ago, because, boy, does he need him more than ever now because of the players Paul talked about.
Now, this happened in the first half. They were 0-0. Let's not forget, Kun Aguero and David Silva both started on the bench going into this game.
And, Danny, the moaning and groaning you could hear at the Etihad today, you could hear they weren't playing particularly well, so Fernandinho gets himself sent off. There's no Silva. How he can play a game, just after getting absolutely annihilated by Liverpool, for me. How he can play without his 2 best players is quite beyond
What's he thinking, Paul?
I've got no idea what he's thinking.
There's no big game coming on the horizon, is there? It's not like you're resting players.
Look, we know if he lost that game today, I mean, everybody would be piling on. Now, they managed to scrape through because he brought them on second half for Iheanacho and Navas, and quite rightly so, and then they changed the game. But for me, some of these decisions that he made against...
Amazing. But they get the result. And after Saturday, which, by the way, was a debacle at Anfield. It was so poor, it was unbelievable. Then this was a big win. However, if people were wondering how big a test this was for the new City manager, then it's clear to see. At Barcelona, he worked wonders, but he worked it with brilliant players. He did a good job at Bayern, but with brilliant players. He's got good players here, but not great players. And he's up against some very good coaches in Wenger, in Mourinho, in Klopp, in Conte, in Pochettino. He's not getting it all his own way. The onus is now on him to show us is the mask slipping, or is Pep the real deal? Now, somebody said to me at the weekend, give him time, man, he's only 6 months into the job. So is Antonio Conte, who, by the way, started later because he was managing Italy at the Euros, and they're on a 13-game unbeaten streak. It's time for us to see the real Pep over the next 6 months.
An extraordinary post-match interview from Pep, which made Craig look like the happiest man in the world. But he was clearly...
That's my New Year's resolution, by the way.
That's very true, by the way.
But clearly not happy with the decisions that went against him, with the style of play, with the criticism that he's receiving. It was almost kind of patronising to the fans and the audience.
The English journalists, the English press, whatever you want to call them, they are getting underneath his skin. There's no two ways about that. Because the press officer has got to have a word with it. Somebody's got to have a word with him and say, Pep, we won the game. We're down to 10 men. We're under the cosh. You changed it. Well done. You know, let's go out on a positive note and just get out of the building and go home and recruit. He doesn't do that. I know there's this big furore about this, the way that he's talking to the journalists, and I thought it was very disrespectful. I mean, the guy's only doing his job and asking him, I thought, good questions.
But, I mean, Pep doesn't seem... Guardiola doesn't seem the kind of guy that's going to bother with what a PR guy says to him. I think he's his own guy, and fair play to him for that. But he has got to be in his bonnet about... He said it after the Leicester game, when Leicester beat them by 4, and they were atrocious. You English talk about second balls. You English talk about tackling. And again today he mentioned, you English, the rules in England and the rules in this. He has got an issue at the moment that people are saying to him, this is the Premier League, and this is not a debate about what the best league is, but you're in the Premier League, can you hack it, and can you build this Man City team, and have you got the stomach for the fight, and can you take the pressure? And at the moment, he's a man on the edge.
He was right, though, to be complaining about the Claudio Bravo incident, though, wasn't it? For Burnley's goal, you're saying that's a foul anywhere in the world.
I think that...
Protectionism from the goalkeeper here, because everybody come out, and people have been killing this goalkeeper, because he's been poor at Man City. You know, with his feet, with his hands. He's been poor. And I think, asked about it again, then Pep snapped. But clearly there should have been a foul there. It hasn't affected him on this occasion, but if he thinks he's a better goalkeeper than Joe Hart, then I think he's a little delusional.
Let's talk about the red side of Manchester. They are in London to take on West Ham. This game, shrouded in controversy as well. Sofiane Fahuli, you're giving your first start, you're excited, you go out there, 14 minutes in.
There's a lot of debate around the world about this decision. A lot of people saying it was a yellow. I think if you put yourself in the referee's shoes, I think it's a red.
But with hindsight, you won't. Looking at
that with hindsight, but he hasn't got hindsight. He hasn't got hindsight.
So you just think it's a red from the ref's perspective,
yes,
point of view.
Totally.
But looking at it again, you don't think it's a red?
No. Yellow.
Yeah. We got there in the end. I mean, let's
because he's got to make that snap decision.
Before we talk about Man United's great Tillman form and great run of results, let's just talk about this supposed multi-billion-dollar Premier League. It's got some awful officials at the moment. If it's not offsides, it's referees missing two-footed tackles, it's sendings off like that, and it's going to have the bearing in somebody at the top of the league and the bearing in somebody dropping out the Premier League at the bottom. One or two bad ones, but it's every week, and it's several every week.
Now, despite having 10 men, West Ham held Manchester United in the first half. Jose Mourinho made changes.
Well, they should have done. If you saw, was it Valencia's miss?
Yes.
I mean, how did he miss that?
And Lingard.
And
Lingard, that was terrifying.
But you just felt they were going to...
Yeah, and they did in the second half, and strength from the bench.
Well, good decision the other day with a great, athletic goal that he scored that got chalked off. But for me, Manchester United, they did what they had to do today, because playing against 10 men, we've played against 10 men ourselves before, and it's never easy. So you just have to wait and bide your time, keep playing the correct way, defend correctly. Because having said that, David De Gea made two great saves at 0-0. But in the end, as we saw, the United won.
It's ironic that Juan Mata, a player who was discarded and sold and outed at Chelsea by Mourinho, is a player that he can pretty much rely on at the moment. He can put him on the bench and he doesn't start crying. If he plays him, he gets a job done. And when he comes on, he scores some good goals. I think he's a good guy to have about the dressing room. There's lots of people who can be bad apples in the dressing room and cause problems. From the outside, he ain't one.
Swansea looks set to appoint Paul Clement as Bob Bradley's replacement. This is a coach with no managerial experience in the Premier League. He's been working with Carlo Ancelotti throughout his career. Came over, managed Derby in the Championship for 8 months, then went back to be Ancelotti's assistant. This seems strange, Craig. It's another massive gamble for Swansea, isn't it?
This seems to me like a club that nobody's steering the ship. It's just drifting along in the ocean and it's getting battered from side to side. And the message coming out of Swansea off the back of Bradley's sacking was, no, right, we've had enough now. We want to get somebody in who's experienced and who knows the Premier League. Well, guess what? 48, 72 hours later, whatever it is, they go and get a guy who's got a few games' experience in the Championship as managing.
I ask myself, why is he doing it? I mean,
yes.
There's got to be something behind this, because any coach that wants to advance their career, they wouldn't. Why would they leave Ancelotti and Bayern Munich to go to Swansea? Everybody's noted that Swansea is probably the worst squad in the entire Premier League. Now, either he's got a huge opinion of his abilities that he can turn this around, because I don't think anybody can turn this ship around now. It looks as though the players have not so much chucked it in, but they just don't seem to have any confidence in each other, in themselves. It's like Craig says, I mean, this ship is just wandering around.
It seems to me as if a lot of coaches out there and managers, it's an ego thing.
Right.
They moan about the sackings, they moan about the press, they moan about the criticism, but they got straight back on the horse. They're applying for every job under the sun. Now, you look at where he's worked, Paul Clement, and who he's worked with and where he's working at the moment. You're leaving that to a rudderless ship that potentially could end up in the Championship, the second tier, and that's a bear pit. Oh. You got into that, and that is a bear pit. You can free fall, as we know, down the divisions from there. The likes of Wolves have done it, Leeds United have done it, who are on the up at the moment. So this is a huge risk. So you can look at it two ways. Is he brave to do it? Possibly. Is it about ego? Potentially. Has it got disaster written all over it? It has got every chance.
As you say, Craig, he was managing Derby before, and he had them in 5th place. You're talking about the Championship being a bear pit and absolutely such a difficult league to get out of. He was 5th, and it still wasn't good enough. And he got the bullet. So he knows what he's doing. I mean, or does he know what he's doing? I mean, I personally think this is a crazy decision by him.
Well, of course, Swansea in action tomorrow against Crystal Palace. We'll be discussing that game on the next edition of ESPN FC. I'll be joined by Craig, Shaka and Ali.
Look.
What did he do?
I'll tell you what he did. He got in front of the run. He made his run a little bit too early. That's what he did. And then his quick thinking, and I never thought you'd hear me say this about Giroud, his quick thinking, adjusting his body, very athletic movement, and he put it goalward. Did he have a little bit of fortune coming off the bar? Maybe he did, but that was just incredible quick thinking.
So you think it's a great goal?
I think it's a fantastic goal.
I mean, I hope Nico's watching this, because he sat there last week and was slaughtering me for not getting in the Christmas festive spirit. Bah humbug. And then he sees one of the goals of the year from a player who's had so much criticism, and he says it was just lucky. Yeah, there's always an element of luck to most goals, or to some goals. But actually, the way that he adapted to that was absolutely brilliant.
Better than Mkhitaryan's?
100%
Yeah. Well, Mkhitaryan was offside.
Well, yeah, and he was further out.
Right.
He was further out. I mean, he had more to do.
I go with Giroud all the time. I just thought it was an absolutely spectacular thinker.
He's actually technically not a bad player. If you watch him when he does play, if he ball goes up to him, he's got some nice touches and some flicks and stuff. That's not the big criticism. The big criticism is his mobility, and he doesn't get enough goals.
Exactly. Every time I see the starting 11 and Giroud's up there in the 9 role, I go, oh my God.
Yeah, he did miss a sitter, didn't he, just before?
Yeah. And the Arsenal fans will say, get him off!
Yeah. Arsenal-Bournemouth. Tomorrow, any chance that they could slip up?
Well, anyhow, sets his side up very, very well. They're extremely well organised, got some pace up top. Whether that will trouble Koscielny, I doubt. But I see Arsenal getting through on this, Dan. It's a difficult game, obviously, because these Christmas, the third game at Christmas is always difficult. But I see him doing it. I see him winning.
Yeah, Arsenal have got this run of sort of decent-looking games on paper where after their disastrous results, as you said, against a couple, was it Everton and somebody else, I can't remember, Liverpool, was it? Whoever it was, I can't remember. They have to start putting this run together with Man United winning, with Tottenham winning. They've got to start doing it now.
Boys, thank you very much. Back tomorrow. Bye-bye.